Scott's going to kick us off here in a second. I just want to make some quick introductions so everybody knows what's going on. Tyler Springer is, a lot of you know Tyler. Tyler is serving as the new chairman of our elder board. So for those of you who don't know, every year we reaffirm or change leadership on our board. And so Tyler has taken that role, and so he'll be doing that for at least the next year. So Tyler Springer, his face. And at least they didn't boo. That's great. And then Dustin Miller. If you don't know Dustin, Dustin's a part of our church family here at River Oaks. We've also been blessed to work with Dustin as our representative from DJ Construction. And so we'll hear from Dustin a little bit later, but he's played a really great and unique role for us as both a part of our church family and then also kind of the guy that we need to help us navigate some of this. So we'll hear from Dustin later. And then Scott Matthews, you're up, man.
All right. Oh, man, I wasn't expecting none of that, man. Well, I'm glad I made it up here, man. I was trying to get my kids around. I'm like, I didn't know what in the world. I know. No. Okay. Well, it's good to be with you guys. I'm glad you guys are here. Like Drew said, my name is Scott Matthews. I hope you guys are full of food because we're about to fill you with some information, okay? Some information that we have been wanting to share with you guys for a long time, and I cannot tell you how excited we are to share this with you guys because we feel like this is an answer to prayer that God has given us for the next steps for our church. And on behalf of Drew, our church staff, our elders and deacon boards, we just want to thank our entire congregation for being behind us. Thank you guys. Give yourselves an applause. Through the ups and through the downs, thank you guys. Since 2017, we initially started this process of launching our campus, and here we are, 2022, talking about how all of River Oaks, all of us, all three campuses, are about to be a part of the mission of making more followers of Jesus in the city of Elkhart. Yeah, that's right. That's what tonight is about. Okay, I want you guys to hear that tonight. This is what tonight is about. It's not just about a building vote. It's not about a location change. It's not about a campaign to purchase property. Tonight is about seeing the kingdom of God advance in our city. It's about seeing entire families come to know Jesus. It's about seeing homeless people and executives, black, white, Hispanic, young, old, all kind of people in Elkhart County coming together under the name of Jesus and affecting people's eternity. That's what it's about. That's why we're here tonight. It's about hearing testimonies of drug addicts, lives being turned around. It's about ex-convicts and retirees and business owners from Middlebury and Goshen worshiping together and serving the city together. That's what tonight is about. It's about Jesus changing lives, and that's why we're here. And I hope that you guys see that. So we believe when we started this that God called River Oaks back to the city of Elkhart. He called us back there so that more lives can be changed, so that we can be a part of what God is already doing in the city. God is already doing some amazing stuff in Elkhart County. We're just going to be a part of it. And that's what I want you to hear tonight as we talk and as we discuss. You guys know the Elkhart campus, we've been worshiping at Elkhart High School East for a while. It used to be called Central High School. We've been there so long that the school didn't change its name. But we met some incredible people. Some awesome relationships have been made with the city and with the school system. We've served so many families, seen so many different faces come into those school doors. People who just want to be a part of a church that's trying to impact the community. And as you guys know, COVID hit our church pretty hard, that whole COVID time. Especially a campus that meets portably. COVID hit us really hard. I mean, we were all three, imagine like this, all three services packed trying to figure things out. And then come April of last year, we relaunched. And every Sunday at 7 o'clock in the morning, we have a group of people who get up, pull our trailers, take them to the church, set up, tear down, at 7:30 in the morning, in the sun, in the rain, in the snow, in the dark. We got people who got bad backs, bad arms, but they're out there doing what they're doing, setting up and tearing down every single week. If you are on our set up and tear down team, please stand up. If you're here, if you want to set up and tear down, please give them a hand. We are in there. It's hot, it's cold, pushing 400-pound crates up and down the thing. These people sacrifice so much of their time and energy. They're not young pups, but they're getting the job done. I want to thank you guys. I want to thank all you guys. I want to thank all of our volunteers, whether you're on the worship team, whether you're on at all of our campuses, our children's team, our First Impressions. Guys, we're all here because we feel called. Nobody's here because this was going to be easy. Everybody who's serving the River Oaks is doing it because we feel called to it. We feel called to the vision that God has put us in. Just like those of you who were with Tim and Gloria when they first started at the YMCA and at Mary Beck. You guys didn't start there because it was easy. You didn't feel called to it because it was simple. You did it because there was a vision. And tonight we feel the same thing. We feel like God has given our church a vision to go back into the city of Elkhart and do something intentional. In a deeply divided and broken world, our church needs to be the light of the world. Amen? The church needs to be the light of the world, and that's what we want to do. So tonight, we're going to spend a few minutes presenting you some information. Drew's going to come back up, and you're going to have an opportunity to write down some questions, to talk about something that you hear. I'm going to open us up in prayer, and we'll get started. Father, I thank you for all the people here. God, I thank you for what you're doing, the folks watching online as well. Father, just thank you for where you brought our church. God, we've been through so much together, but here we are, all three of our campuses, God, just wanting to do what you've called us to do, to make fully devoted followers of Jesus, of every race, every nationality, every background. God, we want to be intentional about that tonight. Let us hear your voice tonight as we discuss, as we talk, and we just trust you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Start by addressing the question, why this project and why now? And to answer that question, we really need to talk about why River Oaks and Elkhart exists in the first place. And the shortest answer I can give you to that question is we believe God has called us to do this. This isn't just a fun project or something that we're like, yeah, we got time on our hands, let's go for it. Like, it's too hard. We believe God wants us to do this. And so as Scott was saying, back in 2017, we began to feel God call us back into the city. We didn't know what that meant, but I had an opportunity, and some of you have heard this story, to sit down with Dr. Pete McCown, the president of Elkhart Community Foundation, and we have a relationship back from our Bethel days. And in the midst of that conversation, Pete shared at the time of all the development and all the money that was going to be coming into the downtown Elkhart area, the River District. He was talking about, the aquatic center and new Martins and condos and all the development that we're beginning to see today. But what he said is, what he recognized is, we actually got in his car and we drove just a little bit outside of kind of the River District area, and he started talking about issues of poverty and homelessness and fatherlessness, and just there was a concern that there would be a growing divide in the city of Elkhart between people who the city was trying to attract into these condos and the development and the people who are already living in and calling the city of Elkhart their home. And what Pete shared is he recognized, a lot of them recognized, that it wasn't more money, it wasn't development that was going to actually solve the issues in the city of Elkhart. It was actually going to be Jesus. And so it was going to be Jesus. And so how can we bring that divide together? And to be honest, this is actually a concern that's become a bit of a reality. For example, just in the last couple months, maybe you've heard Suzanne's Kitchen was displaced from the church that they were meeting in downtown, and then they tried to make a quick move to somewhere else, and a bunch of business owners actually blocked them from moving there because they were afraid or had some concerns about the homeless population coming into a part of the city where more development was happening. Now, whatever you think about that situation is fine. It's evidence that that concern, that divide that people talked about is present, and it's there in the city. And so what Pete recognized back in 2017 is why we're here today. He recognized that there needed to be someone or something that kind of stood in that gap, that created a bridge between people who are moving into the development area, the development of the city, and those who are already called the city their home. And money couldn't solve that problem. And so Pete looked at me and he goes, hey, do you think River Oaks could do that? Like, do you think River Oaks could be that bridge? And I said, absolutely. And God kind of used that conversation to bring clarity to what we felt like God was already speaking to us. as a leadership team. So we began creating plans for River Oaks and Elkhart. And so the vision of River Oaks and Elkhart is to be a campus of River Oaks that extends the mission, vision, and values of River Oaks into the city of Elkhart in a contextualized way so that this campus would be racially and socioeconomically diverse. We felt that God was calling us to go on mission to bring peace, to bring biblical shalom to the city of Elkhart, and we thought that by creating a church, we felt called to create a church that if you were an empty nesting couple living in a $300,000 condo in the River District or a single mom with 3 kids on the South Central side, if we could create a church where you had a shared mission of making fully devoted followers of Christ who go, grow, and show, that maybe God could use that kind of church to fulfill the vision that God had placed on our heart. And for me, man, there's such clear evidence that God's hand and favor has been all over this. Like Scott talked about, COVID has thrown wrenches into the launch of Elkhart campus. There have been challenges, and yet at the outset of launching Elkhart campus, we set some strategic markers that we wanted to see the campus hit in order to establish some effectiveness and viability. And at a time when similar campus launches at other churches have tried and failed, they've closed their doors, River Oaks and Elkhart has actually hit every single strategic marker that we've set for them. For example, one of our goals was that they would be financially self-sustaining, that the larger church wouldn't have to backfill them financially. And I can tell you, they're so far ahead on budget today, we've actually frozen money that we had set back to give towards them, because they're so far ahead in their operating budget. Additionally, we are reaching and serving not only new people, more importantly, we're reaching and serving different people than we would be able to reach here from Goshen campus. It's exciting for me to go down to Elkhart campus and realize that there are more people at Elkhart campus that I don't know at this point than people that I do know. And I think it's important to note that River Oaks and Elkhart is just part of who we are as a church, right? So a part of this process for us has been evaluating the health of our whole church. Are we as a whole church ready for a project like this? And we believe that we are. In a world marked by a pandemic, we recognize the way we measure success looks differently than it did even 3 years ago. Bigger isn't necessarily healthier. For example, we're in as strong a financial position today as we've been in the over 11 years that I've been on staff here at River Oaks. Our unspecified capital, that's like our savings account, our unspecified capital numbers are nearly twice as much as they have been through my time here at River Oaks. And yet we've not backed away from our value of generosity and evangelism as a church. Last year alone, River Oaks, we gave away just shy of $500,000 to evangelism and compassion projects, which is more money than we raised in the entirety of the startup funds for Elkhart campus. And then when it came to our Christmas project, you guys know that. I mean, we set a goal of $180,000. We exceeded it by $114,000, making it, as far as we can tell, the largest single Christmas project we've ever had in the history of our church. Not only that, River Oaks and Espanola has hit financial sustainability this year. And guys, they are literally breaking all-time attendance records. Last week with kids, they had 270 people at River Oaks and Espanola. And then you look at, just if you don't want to talk about money, you look at the Pack-a-thon, what we've done for how many years now, packing 65,000 meals. And that event, we normally get 120 to 160 volunteers. We got 220 and had to close the sign-up down a week early. And the beautiful thing is we had representation from all 3 of our campuses there, showing compassion to the least of these in Haiti. So despite all of the challenges we've experienced over the past couple of years as a church, we've stayed on mission. We've kept the vision God has given us front and center. And today, by the grace of God, we believe that we are ready to take the next step that God is calling us to take as a church. So in just a little while, you're going to hear about our desire to purchase and renovate Central Christian Church on the corner of Franklin and 5th Street in Elkhart. And we feel like this is the perfect location to accomplish what God is calling us to in the city of Elkhart. This location puts us 3 blocks down on the same street as the Lerner Theater in Central Green, where we worshiped together at Jazz Fest last year. It puts us 9/10 of a mile from Martin's and the condos on East Jackson, 7/10 of a mile from the Aquatic Center, 6/10 of a mile from Nibco Water and Ice Park, located in the River District. And additionally, it puts us a half a mile from Retta's new facility, 9/10 of a mile from Church Community Services, 8/10 of a mile from Faith Mission. This location literally puts us in a perfect location to be used by God to go, grow, and show in the city of Elkhart. And yet, probably the most appealing thing about this location is the ministry that becomes possible for our entire church into the future. See, the city of Elkhart, it doesn't need just another church building to hold services on a Sunday morning. There are plenty of churches in Elkhart that are doing that. But this property will serve as a launching pad for our community groups to engage the city. It'll not only be a place for people to get connected in relationships and to find hope and healing and for discipleship to happen. It'll be able to serve as a ministry outpost for much of our local ministry, local compassion ministry, regardless of our campus. It'll allow us to extend current ministry and for us to initiate new ministry in the months and years ahead. It's always been our philosophy as a church to not reinvent the wheel and instead support other ministries and agencies that are aligned with our values as a church and partner with them in ministry. And so this property would allow us to not only deepen current relationships but start new ones. So I'm just going to share a couple opportunities that we have in front of us. And let me just stress, these are opportunities that become possible with a property like this. With the strength of River Oaks and Espanol, we could greatly influence our influence in the Spanish-speaking and specifically the immigrant community. We have already started conversations with organizations like La Casa about not only opportunities to connect community groups from all of our campuses to serve their tenants, but also to work with them to address the immigrant housing crisis that exists not only in our community as a whole, but specifically at River Oaks and Espanol. If you remember in the Christmas Project, we've already raised funds through the Christmas Project to begin to help address this need. We're already having conversations with Horizon Educational Alliance to help address the challenges of kindergarten readiness and the pass rate of third grade reading assessments, which is a huge need in our whole community, but specifically also in that neighborhood. So what if this facility, we could partner with the Elkhart Community Foundation to host an early childhood program that would serve not only single mothers, mothers from the south side of Elkhart, but working parents, lawyers and paralegals who are driving into Elkhart for work? What if we could work with the city of Elkhart Parks Department to develop a community asset on this property, like an indoor play park that would serve families not only from our church, but from the entire community, giving them a safe place to connect and play, especially during cold, hard winters. I mean, it's snowing outside today, okay? Point made. And this isn't even to mention the additional reach we would have to engage people with current strong programs like Spring Hill Day Camp and father-daughter dances and pack-a-thons and family ministry events and community block parties and all church worship and baptism nights and premarital counseling and weddings. When you see the church, there's going to be a lot of weddings, okay? Now listen, this doesn't change our mission at River Oaks, but it does allow us to engage more people and more importantly, different people than we can reach from this location with our mission of making fully devoted followers of Jesus who go, grow, and show. Now as exciting as all of those possibilities and opportunities are, we're dealing with some very significant realities today. Namely, that our lease with Elkhart Community Schools expires in 7 months, later this year in October. The school system has established policy that doesn't allow any church to use their facilities as a long-term home. So the only way we can extend our lease past October would be to be under contract with a new location to move out in the near future. We've been aware of this deadline from the time we moved in to the school, and it's actually only because of COVID that we weren't kicked out in November. So literally for years, we've had a committee of pastors and elders and deacons searching diligently to find a new home for River Oaks and Elkhart with no success. We've tried everything we can to try and find a permanent home. We've worked with a realtor to try and find available property, but because of the location we've wanted, we're in direct competition with private developers for the same limited and yet expensive property. We've reached out to and looked at other churches about renting space from them without any success. We've worked with environmental attorneys to look at vacant yet contaminated land and learned that it would cost millions of dollars to abate the environmental hazards that are present. We've done a feasibility study on new construction that showed new construction would cost $4 to $6 million, and that doesn't include the price of land. We have tried everything we can think of to find a permanent home. And so feeling out of options this last fall, I had a meeting with Mayor Rod Robertson in Elkhart, hoping he'd be able to kind of point us in the right direction and maybe open up a door for us, help us network with others. And yet, he wasn't very helpful. The last thing that the mayor shared with us was his belief that there are so many factors working against us that God was going to have to open up a door that at the time we didn't even know existed. Scott's going to pick up the story.
Yeah. So like Drew was saying, we had multiple iterations of a location team looking for a location, and we literally had no options. And I was sitting in my office last fall, and I got a cold phone call from a pastor friend of mine, Pastor Doug Kripe of Central Christian Church. Is out of nowhere. He just calls me, and he says, "Scott, I hear you guys are setting up and tearing down. Let's talk about something." Central Christian Church, they had been hit pretty hard by the COVID crisis, like a lot of other churches. They were at a point where they needed to figure out what they were going to do to make a decision if they were going to close their doors or stay open. It was the building became too much for their congregation to handle. So Pastor Doug asked us to come over and have a conversation. So Drew, Rick Fry, and I, we went over and checked it out. Went over with a few of our elders and deacons and looked at it to figure out what it would look like for us to acquire the building. And we finally settled on a purchase price of $1 to buy the building. $1, yeah. Pretty cool. So River Oaks, we would take ownership of the building after two things would happen. Number one, we'd have to have a good inspection from DJ Construction to come back. They were going to check it from top to bottom. And the second thing is why it took us a while for us to get here. You're like, man, why is it taking so long? Well, they got to do their due diligence. The other thing is we needed a congregational vote. So that's why you're here tonight. Those are the two things we need to do to acquire the building. So the congregation, I want you guys to know this. The people at Central Christian Church are amazing people. Okay, many of them have been there their entire lives. The church is over 100 years old. There are people who've been worshiping in that church since they were kids. They've had generations of family members worship there. I mean, some of them had family members on staff. So their legacy as a church is not over. We want to continue the ministry groundwork that Central Christian Church has already started. That church has done so, maybe you have been over there, you've been around it. They've done so much in the community already. They've helped the homeless. They've done so much with students. They've had hundreds of kids that they've helped, food drives, clothing drives. They've had other churches nest there to get started. Just so many things. So when we sat down and talked to them about what their vision was and ours was, it just aligned. It just made sense. Just seeing, they were excited and we were excited about serving and compassion and what was going to happen out of that building. So they're going to continue, so as you guys know, they're going to continue to have service there with Pastor Doug leading them. So we're going to be there having service at 10:30. We don't know when their service will be yet, but we do know they're going to continue to have service there until they feel comfortable for the next year, and we're going to continue to kind of talk with them about that. We're going to work at their own pace, and we're going to evaluate over the next year what their next steps are as a campus. But they're going to continue to worship there. What we are going to do is we're going to tag team with them with some compassion efforts. So we're going to do some church picnics with them together. We're going to do this with them. We're going to get to know them better as a congregation, and they also want to plan to jump into some of our community groups. They actually had something very similar. They used to have mission families who would go out and do missions in the city of Elkhart as families. So they're very familiar with having people on mission. So we're excited to share this space with them and to get to know them as brothers and sisters in Christ. I'll tell you this, I wholeheartedly believe that Pastor Doug reaching out to us was a blessing from God. It was a total blessing that they desired to partner with us, and I believe God is going to bless them for allowing us to partner with them as well. It's not an easy decision. Even though they're worshiping there, I need you guys to understand this. They're still grieving as a church. They're still grieving. But they're also excited. They just simply want to see, they told us, they said, guys, we just simply want to see ministry continue in this neighborhood and in the city. It's important. So as you guys should know, this Central Christian Church, they actually had the opportunity to leave the downtown area and move to a different part of town like a lot of other churches did. They voted to stay and to continue to do ministry. I believe that us partnering with them is God honoring their decision to stay in the city and to do ministry. So I'm excited to do that with them and impact the kingdom of God with them. And then last, again, we did our due diligence on the property like Drew talked about. We had a subcommittee of elders and deacon and staff working with DJ Construction to kind of figure out what the layout of the building is going to be, what the footprint's going to be. And now that they're done with their feasibility study and complete, Dustin, he's going to come up and give us his opinion of the building from a contractor perspective.
All right. Well, it's been really exciting and a real privilege to be able to work on this potential project and do this feasibility study. We're going to have some pictures up on the screen here of the existing facility. This is really truly an exciting opportunity that has a lot of potential. There's too much for me to explain to you what this facility is right now. So hopefully, 1,000 words per picture. I got a big chunk of this thing going on here. Like Drew said, the building sits on the corner of 5th and Franklin, and it consists of roughly 25,000 square feet of occupiable space on multiple floors, including a basement. The original building was constructed in 1925, had a major addition, including the sanctuary in 1956, and a significant interior renovation in 1971. The facility remains today nearly untouched since then. This is an old building that's worth investing in. Structurally sound, built with quality materials. Since major repairs and updates have been delayed, the facility is past due on updated finishes, restroom fixtures, lighting, and mechanical systems. Floor plans will be available at your seats after we're done with the presentation here. So for the project, we are going to address those areas of mechanical systems, restrooms, lighting, and finishes. Our goal is to greatly improve the first impression experience when visiting the church, making the spaces feel more like River Oaks and modernize the sanctuary to accommodate our worship style. A central foyer or common space will be established for easy circulation. You'll be able to locate kids' check-in, the cafe, the connection center, restrooms, and navigate to the worship center all off of one area, similar to what we have now. Okay. In the worship center, sound, lighting, and visuals will be appropriate for the space, but also closer to what we experience every week currently. Individual chairs will increase seating, and the increased seating area will accommodate roughly 350 total in the room, including the balcony. Since the heating and cooling systems have reached the end of their life cycle, both in terms of its physical state and design, we will install modern commercial units that will control air turnover and humidity. This will ultimately leave our occupied spaces feeling more refreshed and clean. Conceptual renderings and floor plans of the spaces are also going to be in your packet, so you can see these a little closer. It has beautiful stained glass windows. The initial projections of budgetary costs will be addressed by Tyler in a moment, but those figures are greatly reduced in a renovation project versus a brand new facility. Dollars go a lot further in a renovation than they do with a new construction. To accommodate a congregation of similar size, a new facility of similar square footage was budgeted at roughly the $4 to $6 million, and not including the acquisition cost. Yet with a strong initial investment to upgrade some of the antiquated spaces and systems, this facility can last for as long as a building of new construction. We've been blessed with over 100 projects in the last 10 years alone at DJ Construction. And our professional opinion is that we should continue to focus on doing the things right, doing the construction right, doing it once, and benefiting from a space that functions well for a modern church. This is a great property, a terrific deal, and a facility worth investing in. Tyler.
Isn't this exciting that we all get together and just fellowship with one another? Isn't that great we can do that? Amen. So there's a process to this, right, that we've kind of talked about, and this is kind of the end result of that process we've come to. We've had that subcommittee that we've talked about that's been working with DJ the last several months to kind of explain what is important and what is not important in terms of a building to DJ construction. Now, we know that taking up on a project like this is going to cost somewhere between $2.25 and $2.6 million. As Dustin spoke earlier, DJ does these type of projects all day, every day. Dustin has worked on some preliminary numbers with their vendors based on what we initially know that we'll need to turn the physical space into to make it look and feel like a River Oaks home. And then taking that info and working on computer models and cross-referencing that with their historical databases. Now, there's some big-ticket items that we know we're going to have to address quickly if the congregation approves this vote moving forward. The HVAC system alone in this 30,000 square foot plus building is going to cost several hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're currently using an antiquated chiller and heater system for their water. It's absolutely on their last leg. They're not even sure that if it's going to turn on once it stops snowing outside. A large chunk of these numbers are just on those mechanical things alone. There's several moving parts to projects like this, and that's why you see a cost range, projected cost range. This range is DJ's professional best guess on the range of a project like this and getting CC up to the speed and feel of a standard that we all like and learn to love at River Oaks. If our congregation approves this vision of acquiring CCC and the property and their assets, we'll then roll out a more detailed, specific game plan on a capital campaign in the upcoming weeks as we get more congregational support and input within on the building. During that process, we'll be able to get DJ a more specific project alignment, which will then firm up some top-end numbers. Then DJ will be able to circle back to their vendors and get some firm quotes. Now, I know everyone's probably thinking prices are going up, right? Well, while that's absolutely true, with DJ's experience, they will focus on purchasing the things that are most subjective to price increases and fluctuations as early as possible within the process. By doing it this way, we'll hopefully mitigate any price increases. So now let's go over how this is going to work on a timeline from a calendar view. March 27th today to April 10th, we're going to have a congregational vote open. April 10th to June 5th, we will start the capital campaign commitments. June 5th through the 8th, we're going to scope the adjustments and do the project alignment. And then July 8th to September 4th, we'll work on firm pricing and permitting. September, we're going to start a construction, and then the duration of construction is going to be somewhere between 5 and 7 months. So if you as the congregation support this, we're going to move fast. We've done a lot of legwork getting us here. There hasn't been a stone we haven't turned over to make sure getting it to you guys at this point. As Drew has talked before, one of the things we're known for as River Oaks is we say no to a lot of things. But when we say yes, we've done our due diligence and the congregation gets behind it. So I just want to reiterate how excited we are about this possibility of this project. And we really cannot understate what an answer to prayer this whole process has been. In just a few minutes, we're going to facilitate conversations at your table. And we anticipate that you're going to have some questions about the information that we've been shared with you this evening. At your table, you're going to have a table leader that will take notes, and from your table discussions, including any questions you may have, and then we're going to compile those questions and publish a FAQ. And we may not be able to address every question you guys have tonight with your table leaders, but we're going to make sure that we address any of the questions and concerns that appear to be the most prevalent. I'm sure one of the most important questions you may be thinking right now is, how are we going to fund this project? I'm glad you asked. I want to be very clear on this. We will not be taking on any long-term debt to fund this project. We've actually done some due diligence with a consulting company that works with churches specifically like River Oaks that does consulting and evaluation, and they believe for capital campaigns, that we are in a position to comfortably raise somewhere between $3 and $5 million over a 3-year period. So our goal of 2.6 is very much within our reach. We've also spoken with our bank about doing a short-term construction loan to allow for those pledges to come in over the next 3 years. Because we're committed on not taking on any debt, ultimately we're going to scope the project to the funds that are provided and not reach, if we do not reach that full $2.6 million. Now, we're already holding $230,000 that have been given towards this mission from the Christmas project. Additionally, our leadership team has already committed an additional $295,000. Pretty cool, right? So that gives us a total of $525,000 all into this project initially. We will have more information available for you if and when we receive the congregational approval. Now, this evening, we're going to open up the ballot for our church family to vote on this project. Voting will take place similar to other ballots we've done previously. You're going to receive an email this evening containing a ballot as well as the opportunity to vote in the lobby as you leave. While typically we ask that only our membership vote on the business aspects of the church, we are, however, asking every person that considers River Oaks their home church to vote on this project. We recognize the mission and vision of the city of Elkhart is much bigger than just one campus or even just our membership. Voting will begin this evening and run for 2 weeks, closing on Sunday, April 10th. According to our church's bylaws, we need a simple majority of 51% from our membership to vote to approve this project. Now, with that said, our elder board would like to see an extremely high majority of people's support towards this project to give us a better gauge on congregational support for this project. The vote is simply this. Yes means you support the project and accordingly will give towards this project. A no means you are not in favor of this project and not willing to give towards it. Pending a passing vote, we will launch into a season of fundraising and pledging. But again, I want to reiterate that we will scope this project to whatever funds are given, even if we don't reach the full $2.6 million. Now, as Drew mentioned at the beginning, the whole reason we're doing this is because we really believe that God has asked us to do it. He's called us to do it. I remember I was on the initial subcommittee that we've talked about. There's been several subcommittees for this project over the years. It got to the point, everybody, that I got a call from our realtor that said, hey, I know there's no properties for sale. I know the prices are crazy high for new construction. There's that building on Reith Boulevard getting torn down. Thinking outside the box, what if you guys bought that scrap steel and just stored it for a future project? That's where we were. That was on the table as an option. So it's been miraculous. I mean, it's truly a miracle how God his fingerprints are all over this. We believe that God in his sovereignty has given us this opportunity. This has not been a short process. We've been prayerful, we've been diligent, and we're open to God's calling to us over the last several years. God has absolutely opened and he's closed doors during this process. And it's not just the physical space for the building for the Elkhart campus that we're excited about. It's how that physical location and River Oaks vision could have real kingdom impact in our community. Our leadership team is excited about this. And it's our prayer that God affirms the project in your hearts and in your minds.